we going back home, it ain't talking about where you stay or where you live. I'm talking about we going back home, we got to go within, you hear me? The weapons of warfare are not carnal. And I ain't saying that just to quote a biblical reference. I'm saying that because it's real. If all that is, if all that we see here was only here because we see it, then what makes it exist? Or another way to say that is, if all that be, and all that be, would it be if we wasn't here to experience it? Would it be if we wasn't here to consciously acknowledge it? That's why consciousness is important. That's why the weapons of warfare is not carnal, because our mind can be our best friend or our worst enemy. You hear me? And that's why everybody not healing. And to be better than you never been, it takes 10 times more effort to change than it takes to stay the same. You hear me? But anybody who used to what they used to and okay staying used to that will never be aware of what I just said. Then that's why everybody not healing. You hear me? We coming from the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary tonight. And I share that because we are all expressions. I don't care what you call it. We are all expressions. We come here the same way. In order to exist, we come through the same channels. I don't care what race, color, or creed you is. If you're in a human body, we come here the same way, and we're going to leave the same way. You hear me? So I said that to say we are all expressions of God in our own way, whether we acknowledge a God, a source, a creator, or not. You hear me? We are all expressions of what source is in our own individuality, experiencing ourselves in this reality as source, God, whatever, experience itself through us. You hear me? Good, bad, or indifferent. But good, bad, and indifferent is something that we're gonna have to make up our mind about. You hear me? But if we're going back home, we're gonna have to go within. You heard? Cause moving forward is not an outside job. You hear me? But most of the world ain't realized that yet. You heard? But we coming from the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. I just want to say a few things before I say a few things. Stillness in abundance, loving light, health, and wholeness. Stillness in abundance, loving light, health, and wholeness. Stillness in abundance, loving light, health, and wholeness to the cosmic consciousness, soul control, family, and soul tribe. Tonight's topic is Israel and Israelites from the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. Israel is Hebrew, meaning contending for God, striving for God, who prevails with God, a prince with God, dominion with God, rulership with God. The idea is a development. The idea is a development out of that of contending with and prevailing over anything whatsoever. You heard me? Jacob's name was changed to Israel after he had wrestled with a man all night at the ford of the Jabbok. Well, what was this man? What he was wrestling with? It's the same. It's the same man. It's the same man that we wrestle with within ourselves. It's not really two. The depiction is two, but they hold in one scepter. Two aspects of ourselves hold in one scepter. So the two is really one, and that's the Trinity. For those who get it, gonna get it. But Jacob was wrestling. He was wrestling with a man, and had succeeded in obtaining a blessing. And that's what happened when we overcome, or when we raise up our shadow self. It's a blessing in store. You hear me? For those who do the shadow work, no. When you unite your lower and your higher, you hear me? Or your masculine and your feminine, your yin and your yang, you hear me? And you integrate it, It's blessings that come with that. You hear me? All kinds. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel, for thou hast striven with God and with man. For thou hast fought with God and man, and hast prevailed. And he blessed him there. The significance of the changing of Jacob's name. The metaphysical meaning reads as follows. The significance of the changing of Jacob's name to Israel is this. The mind controls the body through the nerves, and a great nerve, the sciatic. Anybody who got sciatic nerve problems know that ain't something you really want to deal with. You hear me? The mind controls the body through the nerves, and a great nerve, the sciatic, runs down the leg through the hollow of the thigh. The will acts directly through this nerve, and when the individual, through his mentality or understanding, exercises his I am power upon the natural man in an attempt to make unity between spirit and the divine natural, there is a letting go of human will. A great light of understanding breaks into struggle. A great light of understanding breaks into struggling soul when it discovers that there is a divine natural body, and it clings to that inner life and strength, and eventually brings it to the surface in perpetual vigor. This is the significance of the blessing and the new name, Israel. One who has power with God and man, spiritual and material. If you are like Jacob, who is journeying from place to place to find satisfaction, counting the past, looking to the future, change your attitude to that symbolized by Israel and find peace in the divine reality. Israel as a nation in its highest significance symbolizes spiritual consciousness. The thoughts that have been wrought out in truth and righteousness make the spiritual mind or spiritual consciousness what we know as Israel. The thoughts that have been wrought, or the thoughts that have been built up in truth and righteousness, make up the spiritual mind or spiritual consciousness, Israel. In Numbers 21, 1-3, Israel represents the reality of spiritual ideas in consciousness. The Canaanite represents the elemental life forces in subconsciousness. Through Israel, the Canaanites are delivered unto Jehovah, or come under the law of spirit, and are transmuted into spiritual energy. In Isaiah 19, 23-25 symbolically describes the unification of seemingly material substance and the psychic forces under the control of spiritual thought. Israel, meaning a prince with God, is the real of man. That consciousness which is founded in God and divine and source. It requires the story of Israel from Abraham to Jesus Christ to picture the growth. It requires the story of Israel from Abraham to Jesus Christ to picture the growth and spiritualization of the whole man, wholeness. These are just archetypes of a character type. The unfoldment and lifting into full spiritual consciousness includes the body of man, which must be unified with soul and spirit in Christ consciousness, that it may take on and manifest the true spiritual substance and character idealized of God in the beginning for man. In spirit, soul, and body, each of us must come into the perfect expression of God-likeness. You hear me? Faith is the foundation faculty or power in mind through which spiritual man is brought forth. If you will read about Abraham, from whom the children of Israel are descended, you will see at once that he typifies faith. Saul, the first king of Israel, represents the personal will, solar plexus. When the personal will does not recognize the right of I am or Christ to rule, and does not make a union with wisdom and love, it becomes very obstinate and acts unwisely. We talk when we speak of Christ, we not talk about nothing outside ourselves. I just want to make that known. You hear me? Thus Saul brought great trouble. Let me back it up. When the personal will does not recognize the right of I am or Christ to rule, and does not make a union with wisdom and love, it becomes very obstinate and acts unwisely. Thus Saul brought great trouble to himself and his subjects and had to give place to a higher phase of consciousness, which was succeeded by David. Animals represent certain physical qualities in the organism. You ever seen somebody acting a certain way and be like, dang, you act like, and then we even, it was a time where it was common for people to call themselves beasts. I'm a beast, I'm a this, you hear me? Animals represent certain physical qualities in the organism. Horses stand for vitality, oxen for strength, and so forth. A mule typifies some very stubborn phase of the personal man. In the case of David, it depicts the obstinacy of the personal will, over which David gained dominion. David, who represents love, or the heart center, makes a union with wisdom, the crown, top of the head. The human will is unified with divine will and so is guided by love and wisdom. Thus, David rides on, or has dominion over the mule, the obstinacy of personal will. From this union of love and wisdom, the feminine and masculine principles within man, representing Solomon, peaceful, the wisdom consciousness, is brought forth into kingship. He reigns in peace, exercises wisdom, and builds the temple, or the body beautiful. He is the natural offspring or outcome of David's overcoming, and he judges wisely in ruling the people of Israel, or the ideas that make up the real consciousness in man, which Israel signifies. Thus, the uplifting and redeeming of the entire man is not complete until man is born of spirit, and Christ's consciousness comes to perfection in and through him. The spiritual body, which is the perfect ideal body in each of us, enters into the very cells of the seemingly physical body until the physical man manifests the real spiritual substance, intelligence, and life that underlie every form. It is through spirit within us, the Christ or real self, that the intellect is quickened and truth is established in consciousness. Jesus Christ was of the house of David, of love, and he brought the law of love to perfect fruition. He also quickened all his faculties and powers. This process is typified by the calling of the 12 disciples, the cranial nerves. He also quickened all his faculties and powers. This process is typified by the calling of the 12 disciples, who individually represent different spiritual qualities. The 12 sons of Jacob are the first or natural bringing forth of the faculties which culminate in a higher expression in the 12 disciples of Yahshua. Each one of us represent everything that I just read. You hear me? We're going to read Israelite to sum it up. Metaphysical meaning of Israelite reads as follows: the illumined thoughts and consciousness. The Israelites are illumined thoughts and consciousness. Israelites. The illumined thoughts and consciousness which are undergoing spiritual discipline. So each and every day, could feel good for no reason at all. That's a discipline. It don't happen for you. You have to do it. And when the ego or when the monkey mind, don't want to do it, you have to put the ego or the monkey mind in subjection to get yourself where you want to be. You hear me? That's the pull with ourselves if we ain't pulling all ourselves up together. You hear me? They are the total of our religious thoughts in the beginning of our journey from matter consciousness or sense consciousness to spiritual consciousness or I am consciousness, from Egypt to the promised land. Not all these religious thoughts are awake to spiritual truth, but among them are the highly illumined ideas and faculties that the many inspired leaders, judges, prophets, and kings of Israel represent. You ever talk to someone not ready to wake up? If you ever talk to someone not ready to wake up, if you have ever talked to someone who are just closed in to a religious mindset, and you shared some with them, even according to the same religious structure that they participate in, but you sharing something that they haven't been exposed to, it's on and popping, you hear me? The Israelites represent the thoughts in us that belong to the Israel consciousness. They typify that in us which is always endeavoring to follow the inner leading of the divine law. They are our spiritual thoughts, the thoughts that pertain to the real and enduring ideas upon which man and the universe are founded. So I like to talk about real things, real topics. You hear me? They are our spiritual thoughts, the thoughts that pertain to the real and enduring ideas upon which man and the universe are founded. The purpose of the spiritual thoughts in the body is to raise it up. The purpose of spiritual thoughts in the body, the purpose of positive affirmations, good self-talk, to be self-inspired is to raise it up gradually, to infuse it into it a more enduring life and stuff. And so the more you do it, the stronger you get at it, the better you get at it, the more you want to do it. You hear me? Especially if it feels good, you know. Yeah, I'll leave it at that, especially if it feels good. When you affirm the spirituality of your body and yearn for its release from bondage to material belief, you are making demands on Pharaoh. When you affirm the spirituality of your body and yearn for its release from bondage, its release from material belief, you are making demands on Pharaoh. And in fear that he will all at once lose his hold on life, he hardens his heart. And sometimes the Lord, the universal law of equilibrium or karma, hardens it for him. Then there seems a failure to obtain that which you have tried to demonstrate. But a step has been taken in the all-around evolution of the body. And you will find that you are gradually becoming stronger, both physically and spiritually. The Israelites in Egyptian slavery represent thoughts that once had the illumination of spirit, but that have gone down and have become more obscured by matter and material conditions. The army of the Israelites represent an aggregation, an accumulation of thoughts in the mind of every individual, thoughts that know truth and strive to follow it. The army of truth is made up of spiritual and visible forces. The strong point of the Israelites was their faith in the one God. The strong point of the Israelites was their faith in the one God. The lost sheep of the house of Israel in Matthew 10, verse 6, are the spiritual thoughts, unaware of their real character. The disciples were instructed to go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel and not to the Gentiles or to the Samaritans, because the thoughts and the people that have a knowledge of spirit are the first to be redeemed and taught truth. You hear me? You ever wake up before others did? As I said earlier, you ever wake up before others did around you and was trying to wake them up to what you was being woke up to? What was their reaction? You ain't got to tell me. Just remember what it showed you. The thoughts and the people that have a knowledge of spirit are the first to be redeemed and taught truth. Here is where man's greatest spiritual power is first developed, right on the field, day-to-day life. But a lot of us didn't know that's what was going on because we didn't know who we was and all that was going on. You hear me? Here is where man's greatest spiritual power is first developed. Afterward, he will find a way to redeem the Gentiles or the lower nature. That concludes tonight's reading, family. That concludes tonight's reading. We're gonna put what we gonna put in there? A leaf. A leaf. If it ain't a leaf, put a tree. Cause we gotta, we gotta be like the tree and continue to let the dead leaves fall to the ground. If we ain't going back down there, you hear me? And we ain't going and if we ain't going back down there, that means we can't go down without a fight. You hear me? And other than that, that's gonna conclude the night of reading. Thanks for the participation thus far. You hear me? Thanks for those of you who come and listen to the jewels as I'm led to drop them and share whatever I'm led to share. I'm still thinking as I'm going, but yeah, we're gonna do the tree for the night. Strong roots. Trees represent strong roots. You hear me? And at the same time, trees symbolize discarding what's no longer needed. You hear me? So we're gonna be like trees that let the dead leaves fall as we continue to grow, as we continue to expand, as we continue to evolve. You hear me? And as we continue to heal, and as we continue to learn. And thanks for the likes, shares, new subscribers. I see y'all. Comments, salutations, so forth and so on. Place the emoji in the comment section for the end of the month raffle. Simple as that. Feel good for no reason at all. Feeling good is feeling God. It's part of your divine birthright. You hear me? But it takes you to do it. And other than that, man, I love y'all family. My name is Sawu. Peace.